Today's video is about protests happening in the state of Oregon. Yeah, big surprise. Of course, it's Portland, right? Because Portland is basically the France of the state of Oregon. No, actually Eugene, Oregon, and something happened. Now, through the grapevine, I got a very startling statement because a person was injured enough that it was noted by someone in the area, and their description from their perspective was what happened to that person, and is fairly typical of what keeps happening at all of these incidents that are caused by and escalated by ICE. And in this case, the police. The police decided to declare something a riot because a window got broken. At all. And it could have been broken by anybody inside. Inside the building that was being protested were ICE officers. And of course, when nothing happened, and it was a nothing burger, a window got broken. And then the claim was that people entered the building. They referred to it as a breach, but the breach was literally that the window was broken. That's what the word actually means. And a legal status is when the defensive perimeter or defensive systems of a building are damaged or bypassed in some way. It's intentionally left vague so that federal officers and police and whatever have unqualified immunity when, not if, they do something that would normally cause us to, of course, protest. The whole point of this is to make it an escalating thing and a threat. Virtually everything in the legal system is designed to have the threat of being executed for disobeying the police or the military, or in this case, ICE. It's predicated on this extremely adversarial system of punishment without due process as being the first and default status, and then qualified immunity allows them to never really be punished when they're overtly guilty. You can look at hundreds of incidents over the last decades, multiple decades, of the police being legally getting away with murdering people. And ICE has been doing it recently as well. And they have the backing of a president that will give them not only a pardon if they're fully guilty. Some of them are in ICE outfits because they were thrown in prison for doing something illegal at his behest, which he's finally fessed up to doing. He lied about it originally. And they're going to get another pardon. In fact, all of them probably have pre-written out pardons. Because that's an invented thing this term, or previous term. And again, the appointees by Donald Trump allowed him to have this. And of course, that won't apply to liberals somehow. Because selective enforcement is justice. Oregon ACLU, know your immigrant rights for educational purposes only, and then it has a bunch of lawyerisms about doing things that don't work. Read it. Archive below, ending in YzwDM. And B4K, a Reddit post. Is there an ICE protest today? Where? I want to go. During the daytime. During night, we have violence coming from the EPD and ICE. Now, I want to point out something. Instead of being Portland, it's the city of Eugene this is happening in. Would you guys think it's safe to bring a 3-year-old and 8-year-old child? How do you spot a Fed on Reddit? That person and everyone else posting below. Or you really are someone deluded enough to think that you're protesting a group of people because they keep murdering people, but you want to bring your kid. And this is supposed to be liberals saying this. And of course, it's not feds making it look like liberals are using their children as human shields. That's totally not what's happening. Now, why do I suspect this? Because you can look up the statement history for most of them if you use a proper utility. There's web pages that let you look up everyone's posting, and you find a conchronic listing of statements from seemingly pretty new accounts saying this. I mean, sure, they got Flare or whatever bullshit it is they use to try to filter out the trolls, but it doesn't work because people purchase en masse good Reddit accounts and misuse them, because it doesn't matter if you close the barn door after Bossy's left. It doesn't matter if you ban them after they've had the effect that they wanted. I call it Reddit knuckleheads. I refer to that as all the people who say dumb things, mostly as a meme or for the vibes or whatever. But no, these are feds. You can watch 100 videos, some of them by lawyers who are willing to stick their neck out, unlike the one on the ACLU website, ironically enough, and they'll tell you plain and simple what's going on. Some of them have been threatened with being disbarred, and they're like, no, I can actually say these things, and I have legal valid reasons for doing so, and you can't disbar me for saying something that is essentially free speech while being a lawyer, officer of the court, etc. And, very importantly, don't make a lawyer prove what they are saying is accurate. They will. So here's our problem that I'm going to bring up. The Eugene, Oregon Police Department uttered the words riot, which legally justifies unjustifiable acts by whoever's inside the building, and there's no report of anybody being taken down permanently, as we must say, because on YouTube, we don't have free speech because, let's get this part out of the way. The rest of you can just sit back for a second. Dear human YouTube reviewer, because I am going to always protest you letting an AI bot flag my fucking videos. Did censoring us work? If the answer is no, stop it. I don't give a shit if you're desperate for the money. The economy in the world has been altered to where everybody's desperate for money. This is a tool. And the only way this fucking stops is if you start being brave and you stick your neck out like the rest of us should, but we're not doing it. I'm sitting here. I'm in the city of whatever in Oregon. I'm not saying which town I'm in. Can't go to Eugene. Can't go to Portland. I'm staying out of them. But eventually it'll be up the road here, at the Feed and Seed, deli I'm getting my coffees at. There's no town small enough. There is no bug out plan. What do you do? And it is, well, we already know what we say we'll do. We all fantasize about it. So let's get this out of the way. What are you doing right now? This instant? No, now. Because right now is when momentum can be brought to bear. Right now the momentum isn't there for the Republican Party. And if you're expecting liberals who are still talking about not agitating and not triggering the Republicans, they're literally doing those statements. A couple of days ago, one of the politicians, I'll try to find it, literally said, "We're killing the right people." There's a recording of a person saying it. Maybe it actually happened. I'll have to check DEBUNK because the news isn't reliable, right? Well, the news is reliable. Oddly enough, it is. All of the news sources talking about this thing that happened in Eugene, never makes national news because Eugene is boring. So Springfield, so's Tillamook, blah, blah, blah. All the news sources got the same information. But I had to check the news sources on Facebook, which is controlled by a conglomerate and can censor them. Or Twitter, which is controlled by an actual neo-Nazi, by the way. Or YouTube, which is controlled by a conglomerate that is trying to steal your data and is doing shit that's assisting ICE. Or where else did it? Oh yeah, Instagram, which is owned by. It's going to be another conglomerate that's sucking Trump cock. So it's really consistent, and it doesn't make the protesters in Eugene look bad. Maybe there's some facts here. What about radio? What about independent ham operators or people who just get commercial licenses like Art Bell did, even though he let people say things that were completely false? It was actually an example of free speech. And we were allowed to object to it and counter it because we had free speech. Now if you have the wrong statements, you get corrected. Thankfully on Twitter, even though Elon Musk gets corrected by the community a lot, it is actually somewhat free speech now. Oh, wait a minute, he bans people. And TikTok got taken over by Donald Trump literally getting him and his friends to buy out part of it so they could censor it. So that's out. How many of these I'm hearing the Tetris theme, and the screen is completely full, and all the bricks are falling down, and you're acting like, well, we have to wait for the first line to go. No, it was a year. It was a long time ago. The whole thing is falling down. It's happening. Decades of people on the right wing constantly repeating the exact scenario that you know that it's humming, and you know that it's the Illuminati or whatever bullshit term, and they would blame Obama or whoever the fuck they could. They're coming. It's going to be FEMA camps and whatever. Okay, well, we don't have FEMA camps. We have ICE camps. We have a soft martial law. Not really soft. We have Americans being murdered in the street that are inarguably weren't legally allowed to be murdered. These are murders. This is not justifiable. And some of you are still arguing how many angels are on the end of a pin so you can avoid talking about this. I have the Oregon ACLU that should be putting up language that does not pull punches, that is doing so as much as possible. ACLU-Oregon.org. Know your immigrant rights for educational purposes only. This is not an endorsement. We are not your lawyers, but we had this written by lawyers, but they're not your lawyers. And we have someone on Agent Provocateur on Reddit saying things that other people are like, why would you say that? And it was funny because a lot of the replies seem to have been stacked up so that it makes it to where someone can do a real quick screenshot and say, see, we told you so. I was going to do a video on Rust Legacy and a little dinky bit of progress I had in doing a silly video game. And now I'm sitting here thinking, do I have the right mix for salt water, some copper wire, and the right number of F-cell batteries-based lantern batteries to do electrochemical etching in metal? I'm thinking, do I have the right inner diameter pipes? Where am I going to get propellant? That was the thoughts I had in my head as I was coming home from getting my coffee at the local, Piggly Wiggly looking place. The local feed and seed. Walking back here to where I'm staying. Thinking, I just heard about somebody getting, the description could have been being hit in the face with a flashbang or just being maced. Apparently it was just macing. And oddly enough, I had to use mainstream news to get an accurate information because the first thing on Reddit was someone saying, let's take our 3-year-old and 8-year-old to a protest where they will fire tear gas canisters. That totally sounds like your average parent. Yeah, but liberals are just that crazy. But they're not crazy enough to look up pipe inner diameters and make a rifle, pistol, or shotgun. That doesn't happen. No, only you resourceful Republicans that buy every bit of bullshit you're fed. At least you act like it. Just admit you're in favor of murdering half the population in my country. Just admit that you're on that side. Just admit that you're the Neo-Confederacy and be done with it. With exactly the same basis what there is of it for your actions and beliefs. And I just admit that you want to make this into, you don't have to deal with any of us voting against you anymore. Any of us saying, yeah, our rights are important too, yours are important, let's all be, No, you don't want that. Why don't you just admit it? Why don't you just suck it up and actually admit what kind of monster you are? Don't say it in the comment section. I'm not letting any post. Say it under your breath. Or say it out loud. Walk out and tell your neighbors what the fuck you are. And for the rest of you that would like to fix this, what are we supposed to do to fix this? I prep for I'm literally a prepper. I prepped for this for decades. A lot of us are. We're sitting on our hands. I'm in a state that recently took away because they keep making laws that are confusing and contradict each other, I can't do anything. And if I go in and do the law, all it does is put me on a list of first doors to bust down. Exactly what the conservatives said was going to happen. Oh, it's the liberals that did it. Actually, you might want to look up actually where this law came from. Because they got fooled too. And all you conservatives are for it. Because you think it won't affect you. Just some thoughts for the day. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Thanks for letting me vent. Bye.